of a guy. Good morning. How's everybody doing today? Good. Are you awake yet? I am feeling great. I was chatting in the hall with a new friend of mine, Kenneth, this morning, and he reminded me of the word that I and my team adopted last year, and that was blessed. And I'm truly feeling blessed this morning. I mean, as I think about what we all went through last year with COVID and everything else that happened in the world, all these disruptors that we were challenged with, myself and my family, my team and my organization stayed healthy. We survived the worst pandemic that the world has ever seen, and we're all here today. And I am thrilled to be here today because I am tired of looking at the Brady Bunch on a screen and trying to interact with people and feel good about the dialogue we're having. So I'm very excited to be here with you. I think Dan's frog jumped to my throat while I was sitting next to him, so excuse my throat if I have a little bit of a frog, but hopefully that'll go away. So as Dan mentioned, my company Midan is a marketing company. We are the only full service marketing agency focused strictly on the meat industry. That's all we do is meat programs. So when Danette and I started the company in 2004, my business partner Danette and I started in 2004, we wanted to create an organization that focused on giving back. And our purpose, our why, is about the cattle industry. It's about working with anybody moving product from farm to fork to do a better job of delivering to what's happening on the other end of the channel, the consumer, and working really hard to doing their part in adding value to products. What I'm going to share with you today is a lot of research, a lot of numbers, a lot of content, because we talk to consumers all the time. We talk to consumers on behalf of our clients, and we talk to consumers on behalf of the industry. And our goal is to continue to remind you all that the end game here is the customer, and the customer at the end of the day is the consumer. If they're not willing to pay for what we're delivering at that part, whether it's at retail, in a restaurant, or the most popular opportunity for buying meat today, online, if they're not willing and see value in what we're offering, we're not going to be here doing what we do today and what we really truly love. So I want y'all to keep that in mind as we move forward. As I said, there's a lot of disruption going on. We lived through so much last year, and think about what the consumers were living through and what they're dealing with. It's going to set a stage for the kinds of things I'm going to share with you today about what we heard from consumers as we tracked their attitudes, their behaviors, and their perceptions throughout 2020, and try to kind of get a feel for, is there a new normal now, or are we still struggling to figure out exactly where we're going to land? So listen to this little clip.
In my view, we've already waited too long to deal with this climate crisis. We can't wait any longer. We see it with our own eyes, we feel it, we know it in our bones.
The California Farm Bureau says during carrot and onion harvests in South California, they are seeing up to 30% fewer drivers than before the pandemic.
We all want normalcy in America. The highway to that normalcy is vaccination.
So climate, the environment, labor, economics, and health and wellness. Those are three big topics that we all listened to and lived through in 2020, and we're still doing it in 2021, and we will continue to do it as we move into the future. That's what's on the minds of consumers, and that's what they're reacting to when they go and spend their money, no matter where it is they're spending their money, but also when they're spending their money on the meat products that we're raising. So today I'm going to talk to you about the meat consumer. We're going to stay in the US because the US is much different than you'd find in any other part of the world. As I said, we track a lot of trends with consumers. Throughout COVID, throughout the 2020, we realized that we were on to something big very early on. We shut my offices down on March 1st of 2020. We have two offices, one in Chicago and one in North Carolina. And when we realized what was happening, we shut everything down. We have yet to go back to our offices, so we're still all working at home. That's a big shift, not only for us, but for all consumers. Think about all the people you know today who are still working from home. It's a different environment. It's a different perspective on life, a different relationship with the family, a different relationship with commerce. That's what we're dealing with. And if you look at the US consumer, we've also tracked over time it's a very diverse consumer that continues to evolve. Even before COVID, they were evolving. I'm going to share some research we did just to try to get our hands on more firmly around the perspective that we need to understand when we tried to target a consumer, not just looking at all general consumers and how they're feeling, but if you're going to work with a company, one of our clients, and we want to figure out who is your target, what are you producing for, and how do we serve up the right product at the right time, at the right place, with the right messaging for that customer. We need to get more specific with customers, with consumers. But there's a lot of them out there, and so we need to continue to dig into what's going on there with them. We did what we call our COVID research 8 times last year. We started in March, and every other month we went out and we talked to consumers about their stated behaviors, their attitudes, and their perceptions, because we knew that they were going to evolve. We knew they were changing, and we wanted to be aware so we could send messages back, not only to our clients, but the industry at large. One of the ways we actually track consumers from a number of different perspectives. A traditional perspective would be, and probably the more popular would be generational. How many millennials do we have out there? None? A few? Just a few? You don't want to admit it? Any Gen Zs? So Gen Zs are 24 and younger. So we're starting to see some Gen Zs show up. Those are the generations that everybody wants to know about right now. I mean, we've been talking about millennials. I've been talking about millennials for 10 years. They changed the way we go to market. They changed the way we need to think about what consumers are looking for. They're the first group that were connected socially. They had cell phones. They knew how to get on a website and start searching around, and they wanted information. They wanted transparency. That word transparency, they brought it to us and everybody else in the world, and we're still living it with it today. So one way to look at it is generational, and I'm going to actually talk a little bit more about that later on. The other thing, when I talked about we need to understand who our target is, what we did was we decided we would do the first ever meet consumer segmentation study. Now, I know a lot of you are a bunch of researchers, so you probably know what segmentation is, but for those of you who don't, a segmentation research study is when you go and survey a population of individuals, and you ask them a whole battery of questions on their stated behaviors, their attitudes, and their perceptions. The most important part being attitudes and perceptions. How do you feel about it? What do you think about it? And what will you do because of it? And we did this segmentation research, and the goal was to start grouping consumers that think about and actually have behaviors that are similar into what we call segments. So we did a segmentation study in January of 2019, and we ended up with 5 segments. Was very interesting because each of these segments are somewhat unique to some of the others. And when we think about what are we producing to, if we're not producing to the general population of meat consumers, then for branded companies who are looking at claims and everything they're trying to do to differentiate themselves, they're going to want to know, do I want to be am I looking at a protein progressive, a family first food lover, or am I going to try to get this elusive wellness diva that I want to approach and get interested in my product? These 5 categories, as I said, are very different. A little snapshot on what each one is. Progressive grocers, they love protein. The key word is protein. They're one of our biggest meat eating segments, but they don't differentiate with protein. They're looking for variety. They love to try new things. They're out there looking for something new and different, and they're the first to adopt everything. Later on, I'm going to talk about technologies and attitudes toward technologies. This is the group that is most likely going to pick up a cell-based product. They're most likely to be comfortable with gene-edited product if they know that that's in there. This is a group that we need to understand, and they're also one of our largest groups. They include a lot of flexitarians. Flexitarians are they're flexible in where they get their protein. They love meat, but hey, you know what? Their protein. This is the group that when I went into the grocery store in the middle of COVID, and there was no protein, none, any kind other than plant-based protein left in the case. This is the group that was picking that stuff up and taking it home. That's the group. Next group, family food lovers. This group is all about the love of food, the love of cooking. It brings the family together. They are driven by claims. They're purists. And they really, if they're going to buy meat, they're going to buy probably a grass-fed versus a grain-fed because they figure it's pure, it's more natural. Not that they really understand what that means, but that's their attitudes. Aging traditionals, that would be me. Center of the plate, put it there. If it doesn't have a meat protein, an animal protein in the middle of the plate as the core of my meal, then it's not a meal. I don't look for claims. I'm not going to be coaxed by claims. And I taste and sample plant-based products because I'm in the business. I need to understand what our competition is doing. Otherwise, I'd never buy the stuff. Convenience chasers, just what they say. They're very interested in convenience products, packaging that is very convenient. They're on the go. They typically have families in tow, and they're not into claims at all. But they're also very price conscious, and you can get them with promotions and specials. And then the last one is this wellness diva. That's the smallest group. Thankfully, they're uber focused on health and wellness. It's all about health and wellness. They are in the process of trying to eliminate animal protein from their diet, but they still eat some. But when they do eat it, they're very claims focused. They want no antibiotics, no hormones, all natural. You load it up, load the package up with every claim you can think of, and that's the one they're going to pick. So this is our segmentation work. We put it out in 2019, and we felt really good about talking to our customers about let's figure out who you're producing for, no matter where you are in this channel of moving meat from farm to fork. And let's make sure that you understand what an end game looks like. You understand that they're going to pay money for your product if you actually have these kind of things you've done to it, if you're using this kind of messaging, and if you're putting it out there in these vehicles that they're regularly searching for product. Well, and then COVID hit shortly thereafter. And we thought, you know what? Maybe through COVID, things have changed with our segments. We need to go out and re-research. So in September of 2020, we went out and did another battery of questions with another nationally representative sample of meat consumers. And when I say meat consumers, it's everybody from I eat meat 3 times a day, it's always on my plate, to I eat meat once, maybe every 2 or 3 months. Not really much. We wanted to get them all in here. We found out that the segments held, but the percentages shifted somewhat. And if you can see the numbers on here, the two that we're tracking the most closely are convenience chasers and protein progressives, because those are the 2 largest and the 2 that are most opportunistic for us. The convenience chasers went from 30% to 39%. Doesn't surprise me in the state in a time period where we're dealing with COVID, in that families were all of a sudden at home. They're making all the meals at home. They don't have a food service or fast food option anymore. They are time pressed. They're working at home. They're living at home. The kids are at home. They need help. So all of a sudden, a lot more people were very focused on convenience and willing to pay for it, even though they're going to use a coupon if they can. So it doesn't surprise me that convenience chasers increased. And protein progressives, again, they sort of move along and they're looking for variety. And so they were really creative through this time period. They got better. They got better. This is not said properly. They became much more comfortable with our product than they were before. That's an unintended benefit of COVID for this industry. They were eating products cuts they've never even heard of before, even considered buying before, and they were picking them up and then figuring out what to do with them because they had them. And we now have a whole lot of people who are a lot more confident with our products. So we did see some shifting, and we continue to track these segments as we move forward. So we have all kinds of details of what the consumer did throughout COVID and kind of what they're coming out with. I just wanted to share a few with you. 59% of shoppers are experimenting with new ways to cook meat and poultry. All right, how many bought an air fryer last year? Anybody? How about an Instapot? Yeah, a few of you. Yeah, me too. I bought them both. They're sitting in my garage in boxes now because restaurants are opening up again. The gadgets, they flew. I mean, Amazon couldn't keep them in stock. They flew off the shelves. Everybody needed something new and something to make life more convenient. And then they needed to figure out how to use it, and they needed a recipe, and they needed to understand the cuts. So they were online searching and searching, and it's those organizations, companies, brands that catered to that need that really benefited last year. It's unbelievable how, and we're seeing them still be in use, and now there's all kinds of applications for those products today. 46% of consumers said beef is the protein they are most likely to want to get in a food service operation when they go back to food service. So beef was number one at 46%. The next closest was chicken at 35%, and pork was at 4%. They're craving beef. That another unintended benefit of COVID for the beef industry. They missed our product. Scarcity creates demand. They missed our product. They missed going to a restaurant and sitting down and have that incredible steak at their favorite restaurant. They weren't getting it anymore, so they learned to bring it home. In January, 10% of meat consumers said that they were eating less meat and poultry than the previous month. One thing we learned as well is even in the whole scope of COVID, when it comes to January, everybody has their New Year's Eve resolution, and one of them is, I'm going to lose weight. And how do I lose weight? I quit eating so much meat and poultry. So that didn't change. We still are dealing with that mindset. So I wanted, the significance of that is health and nutrition. How do we play in the health and nutrition area for consumers? And this is really the big aha from last year, and everybody's talking about it. 57% of meat consumers have purchased meat online since COVID began in 2020. 57%, that's more than 50% of consumers bought meat online. Prior to that, we were lucky if we even hit 20%. We were probably in the high teens, maybe low 20s of the people who have even tried meat, and they were buying it direct to consumer from a Crowd Cow or a Butcher Box, or the biggest one. I mean, the company that started it all was Omaha Steaks. That's the kind of delivery they had for meat products online. But now 57% said that they have bought meat online in the last month. That's pretty incredible, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. As I said earlier, confidence is rising. During the height of the pandemic in 2020, 90% of meals were consumed at home. 90% of meals were consumed at home. Just a few months ago, it was still at 81%. We're just starting to see the food service industry reopen up. And so people are starting to get more comfortable going out. Cities are opening up. Chicago just completely opened up 2 weeks ago. We're now mask free. Everybody's out. The ballparks are full. The concert stadiums are getting geared up. Everybody's out and feeling like we've got a little bit of normalcy. However, people are still cooking at home. That's an opportunity. We've got to understand that opportunity. They've determined that they actually kind of enjoy it. And then again, this unintended benefit is they feel much more knowledgeable about what it is that they are purchasing when they purchase meat. 35% said that they're a lot more knowledgeable and confident, and 25% said, I'm a little more knowledgeable and confident. Again, unintended benefit, they had to learn to use our product. They determined that they needed our product when they couldn't get it, and they had to learn to use it, which is actually really good for us. And then there's this whole concept of premiumization. I talked about the fact that they couldn't go out, they're craving a steak. They want to go on even a burger, a great burger or a great steak. They wanted it desperately. So they started bringing it home. And we all know what the prime percentage of our product line has done in the last couple of years. They're looking for prime product. They can access prime product now, and they're actually appreciating what it brings to the table and seeing the value that it brings. So we're seeing more and more prime product being sold, not because it's happened to be the only thing that's available, but because they're looking for it and they're wanting it. Volume sales are up 55% for prime cuts. It's 4 times the growth of the beef category, and the average number of items is up 16%. So they're embracing prime cuts at home. They're getting it. We're hoping that they're going to continue to embrace it when even they're going back to the restaurant and being able to pick up their favorite steak. So what's most important to today's consumers as well? Let's see, I'm pushing the wrong button here. So I talked about the fact that we look at segmentation, but we also look at generations, and I'll talk about generations in just a minute, but we also look at it from a multicultural perspective. Gen Zs is the most diverse, culturally diverse, ethnically diverse generation we've ever had. And we need to start thinking about what that means for how they buy product, how they cook product, where they look for product. And so we did a research study this spring on the multicultural meat consumer. We found out that they purchase large varieties of meat cuts. They're not one-dimensional. They're looking for, again, protein, and they love animal protein. They're some of our biggest customers. They're more likely to share the grocery responsibility. Why is that important? Because we need to know where to talk to whoever, sort of multiple hits within a household, to make sure that we get our messages across for marketing to that household. And finally, they're aware and interested in claims. They're some of the biggest claims buyers we have. So we need to consider that when we're developing product and delivering it to them. When we're developing our claims product, let's not forget that we have a multicultural consumer base out there that who would be interested. We talked about millennials. Millennials are high consumption of proteins. They're encumbered with debt. And I say that because a millennial, the millennial span from 25 years old to 40 years old. Think about what happens in your lifetime between 25 and 40. Everything, right? Everything. I mean, 25-year-olds we've got in this cohort. 25-year-olds are just coming out of college. They're getting their first job. You know how much it costs to go to college these days? It's unbelievable. And so they've got all this debt they've got. They're burdened, but yet they're very discerning buyers. They look for value. They're willing to spend their dollars, but if only if it lines up with their value structure and they feel value in the purchase. So we need to understand what it is they're doing and what they're at the other end of the spectrum. At 40, they are in a career now. It's not just a job, it's a career. I've got a spouse, I've got kids, I've got a house, they're still in debt, but they're a lot happier. They got a lot more money to spend. And again, we need to be there where they are and helping them understand why they should be buying our product. And then we have these Gen Zs. This group is yet to put a big footprint out there of who exactly they are, but we're trying to track them. They are incredibly socially connected. They've never known a time without a cell phone, an iPad, being online, all the social platforms. It started with Facebook, but they don't even look at Facebook anymore. They're on TikTok. TikTok is the big one now. Everybody know what this is other than a Gen Z? Here's the Gen Zs. They don't even know what this, I did this to someone, this is literal. I did this to someone the other day and they're looking at me like, what does that mean? Just blows my mind, but they're adventuresome eaters. They're looking for a lot of variety. They're incredibly social connected. 8 seconds, we've got 8 seconds to reach that consumer, whether it's online or in the meat case. 8 seconds or we lose them. So we've got to snap something out there quick. They're socially connected, as I said, 8 hours. They spend about 8 hours on socializing online and about 10 hours online a day. They're always on, they're always looking. However, while millennials are getting more and more adept at ordering online and having it shipped to them, Gen Zs are as likely to look online, do all their research online, and then go to the store and get it because they want the experience. So don't forget about the fact that they want to interact. They want to be sort of in the moment. So we need to create an experience for them. Another way to look at the consumer from a whole different perspective. Overall, a shared attitudes. They care about animal care practices, nutrition, and the environment. Again, you're going to hear me talk about those 3 platforms throughout the course of this presentation because that is what has really resonated across the consumer base for meat consumers. It used to be when I was growing up and my parents were cooking for me. My mother was cooking for me. We raised a lot of our own beef, but once in a while, I guess she'd go to the grocery store. I don't even remember my mother going to a grocery store. I couldn't even tell you where the grocery store was when I was a little kid. But it used to be pretty simple. What does the family like to eat? What are their preferences? What does it taste like? And what does it cost? It's pretty simple. Today, as we think about delivering, it's much more complicated. Consumers have a lot of things on their mind when they're thinking about buying meat products. And we need to, again, think about what we're delivering, what are we doing to try to be competitive, and how do we satisfy their needs. All right, I'm going to move into what I call consumer expectations. And this is where I want to talk about some platforms that really drill down into what consumers are looking for and what we need to deliver when we meet them, wherever we meet them in their buyer's journey. Four areas that I'm going to focus on: health and wellness, e-commerce, sustainability and transparency, and new technologies. These are just four. There's a lot of them, but I'm going to serve up these four. And the goal is ultimately, we need to earn the trust of the consumer. If they don't trust us and feel confident in what we're delivering and believe us, they're not going to buy our products. We're going to start with health and wellness. 71%, when asked, when consumers were asked to self-classify themselves, 71% of consumers this past spring said that they were meat eaters, and 19% said flexitarians. The others are pretty small. Vegetarians are 6%, and pescatarians are 4%. The two to primarily look at are meat eaters and flexitarians. Consider that in 2019, so just 3 years ago, the meat eater number was 85%, and the flexitarian number was 10%. That's quite a shift. Now, that doesn't mean we've lost those folks who moved to flexitarianism. It just means we need to work a little harder. They're looking for protein. Remember, not necessarily looking for meat or animal protein. They're looking for protein. They don't discern. They'll choose. They like variety. It's our job to make sure they choose meat, real meats, animal protein more often, and we get that to the center of the plate rather than the competition. That is our challenge. 76% of consumers say that meat and poultry belong in a healthy diet, healthy balanced diet. That's up 12 percentage points from last year. 12 percentage points. Another unintended benefit. They became more comfortable with our product, used our product, probably searched for our product a lot more online and learned a lot more about our product. And now we've got this halo that we've been able to attract, and we need to continue to work to use it. If we split it more specifically to those self-classified as meat eaters at 78%, and those self-classified as flexitarians at 67%, a little bit less, but think that flexitarians are up from 50% in 2019. So that number is getting better as well. We just need to keep on raising those numbers. Protein, 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 zinc, iron, niacin, the B vitamins. I don't care what you put on your package, what you put on your website, put something on the website about what we bring nutritionally to the plate. We've not done a good job of this. We're working on it. We're getting a little better, but we've not done a good job. When consumers were asked, do you want something highlighted from a nutritional value on a package of meat? 91% said yes. And 57% said, show me the protein. I have another slide that I've used in another presentation that shows all of these random products throughout the rest of the store, center of the store, calling out in big, bold letters, protein, protein, protein. We have the best natural source of protein that any consumer can consume. But do we spotlight it on our package? I mean, if you look, it's about this big on the nutritional label, about this big, where on a bag of chips, it may be this big. It's ridiculous. We need to do a better job. We need to lean in to this health and wellness trend. Claims. Everybody's focused on claims now from a production perspective. What do we need to do to differentiate? How do we need to create products that consumers are going to understand and want? And that's great. I mean, the more specific we are, the more care we take in creating products that are going to deliver this value equation for consumers, the more likely we are that they're going to pick up ours versus something that is not true animal protein. What we did was we tracked claims throughout 2020 and 2021. And let me go back here. And 34% said yes. So the question was, have you purchased claims-based meat in the past year? 34% said yes, because it was all that was there. And we just talked about what happened in 2020. There was no product available, so they were buying whatever they could. 28% said yes, because I searched for that product. So we got those 20% that are believers in claims. Our challenge is this 34% who bought only because it was there. It was the only thing I could, and so now I guess I'm a claims purchaser. Our challenge and our opportunity is to see if we can get them to continue to buy, because we're delivering and we're messaging to them and we're trying to get them excited and loyal to a specific product because of what we did in the production process. And in fact, we heard that from those who were both regularly purchased and those who had to purchase, about 78% of those think that, this is the thing, think they're going to continue to buy claims product in the future. So we think we've converted some. But the whole thing, how significant is claims right now for consumers? It's still out for debate. Natural and organic purchasers, however, are big claim shoppers. We did a survey of natural and organic shoppers. These are shoppers who, number one, they said, I only buy natural products. The other one, I only buy organic products, or there was a little bit of a crossover, but you'd think there was a lot of crossover there, but there really isn't in consumers who buy both. But when we asked them about claims, those are the claim shoppers. They're already looking for a natural product or an organic product, and therefore they're looking for other claims as well. It's this little gray bar down here where they say they don't purchase natural or organic, and they really don't look for claims. They're just not interested. They're probably the traditionalists. So we need to consider who is actually buying the claims. And for those who are natural and organic meat purchasers, just threw this up there, what they're looking for is free of additives, better health and wellness, and better eating experience. That's what they're looking. That's why they buy natural and organic products. All right, I want to move on to e-commerce. Make sure I try to stay on time here. E-commerce, one of the big ahas for 2020. People are buying product online. 57%, as I mentioned earlier, of meat consumers purchased meat online during March of 2021. That's just a couple of months ago. 57%. That's really still blows my mind. Where are they buying? 15% said that they buy from a Crowd Cow, a Butcher Box, and Omaha Steaks. 20% are buying meal kits like Blue Apron and HelloFresh. 32% are buying through Instacart, Amazon Fresh, or Peapod. 36% the grocery store delivery. They order online. They look online and order online, and they get it delivered. And then the balance are actually picking it up on an order, and I'll pick it up at the store basis. 91% of that 57% of online shoppers have ordered meat and poultry from a local retailer's app or website. Talk about a partner. When we talk about who do we work with along the line, and I'm challenging you all to think upstream, we need to work with retailers more than ever today to make sure that they're doing a nice job of representing our products, because all these people are going online and buying meat. And it used to be they go online and buy meat and all you see is a picture and a price. That was it. Now you're getting a story. Now you're getting QR codes. Now you're getting more information about why they should pick up this product, because consumers are there. Let's feed them what they're looking for. And again, from a competitive perspective, the more information we can give them, the better. So retailers got really good at this. We actually tracked and asked consumers, how are retailers doing in delivering online? And we saw the numbers. Initially, it was not a pretty picture. They were doing it because they had to. They bought it because they had to. But as we saw it over time, the percentages of approval rating went up and up and up. So retailers are doing a really good job. And they are truly, if we look at our gatekeepers to the consumer, it's retailers, food service operators, and now direct-to-consumer providers. Those are our gates, our gateways to the consumer. We've got to work with those partners to make sure that they are representing our products the way they should be. So 53% of the product, again, talking about the 57% of online shoppers, the quantity of meat purchased online in the past month from online shoppers was 53%. That's 53% said they purchased all or most of their meat product online in the last month. Then we asked them what they thought they were going to do in the future, which is always a tough question, but it was interesting. 41% said that they think they're going to continue to buy all or most of their product online in the future. That's pretty significant. That's pretty significant. So again, where are they? Where do we need to serve up product and content? Online's a big one. Now the reality check. So if we go back to the general population, come out of that 57% that said, I shopped online, and go back to our general population of meat consumers, about a quarter of them said that they will probably buy most or all of their product online in the future. That's still 1 in 4 consumers buying all or most of their product online. Think about the significance of what online shopping does for us in our industry and where we need to focus our efforts. We need to focus it at the meat case, absolutely. Those Gen Zs are going to be there looking for an experience. But we also have to be online and serve up information online that's going to keep them interested. Sustainability and transparency. This is always a hot topic. It's challenging because sometimes we see even in our industry, we struggle with What is the definition of sustainability? What is included, what isn't? How do we get better? Where do we set a benchmark, and how do we grow from that benchmark? How do we be competitive when we're trying to work together on sustainability messaging? All kinds of challenges that we need to consider. Think about how confused the consumer is about sustainability, because they're thinking about sustainability in the environment for everything. And then when it comes to meat, how do they get their head around how can that product be sustainable? What does sustainable mean for a meat product? And how can I feel good about that? Well, a lot of it lies in transparency and sharing what it is we are doing in a snackable way. And snackable is key because it's got to be short sound bites, but very effective sound bites that they can understand. 71% of Americans say they are worried about the environment. 48% of consumers believe brands and companies have the responsibility to do what's best for the earth. Almost half of consumers. 43% said that they want to protect natural resources, and a quarter of them, 27%, want the industry to become carbon neutral. I would venture to say that consumers really couldn't give much of a definition on any of those, but they're still thinking it, they're still saying it, and they're still looking for information on it. And it's up to us to continue to do what we can, keep moving that ball up the hill, and delivering that information to consumers so that they feel better about what we're serving them. Younger consumers are the biggest challenge. 33% of younger shoppers, and when I say younger, it's millennials and Gen Zs, they say they trust the food industry, and 25% say they trust packaged labels. That's only 33% and only 25%. Those are pretty sad numbers. We got a long way to go here. They're very skeptical. There are up and coming shoppers. They're going to hold the purse strings to our success in the future, and they're very skeptical about the industry at large and about what's on packaged labels. And yet we've got big companies coming out and putting a stake in the ground saying, this is what I'm going to do. I've got a plan. I'm going to make a commitment, and this is what I'm going to do. And while I think a lot of that was activated by activists and delivered by major companies, some who embraced it and some who felt pressure to do it, but now I think most have embraced it and see the opportunity and even value the opportunity in doing more sustainable practices and in their systems. Accountability is going to come around here real quick. Some of those numbers, 22, 21, accountability, you know who's going to be asking about accountability and where those messages are going to go. If we don't hit those numbers, consumers are going to see it. So they're always watching. I was talking to my friend Kenneth this morning, my new friend Kenneth this morning, and we were talking about this, and he said it, I didn't, I loved it. He said, we got to tell our story. And I got a whole presentation on telling our story. We have the most powerful story out there from an industry perspective, from a branding perspective. Think about what all of you do and how you're connected to the land, the animals. The stories are beautiful that we can put together. We just need to tell them. We just need to learn to tell them. And it doesn't matter what side of agriculture you're on. I've got some examples here, and it kind of goes the gamut, but it's out there having people telling their stories through video, through some of the social platforms, or taking a stance and challenging the media on allowing us to tell our story. Take a listen. They're planting a Christmas tree. How organic is that?
I wrote the letter to Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez because I wanted her to know that farmers and ranchers are the original environmentalists. And honestly, cows are part of the solution. Cows are superheroes and are honestly the original plant-based protein. And I just wrote the letter because I wanted her to know that farmers and ranchers want to be part of the conversation in the climate solution moving forward.
Our open source, autonomous, self-replicating solar-powered technology scrubs carbon from the air and builds its own body with that carbon. Then our highly motivated, highly trained carbon filtration and transformation specialists transform and stabilize the carbon.
I love that last one. 3 different clips. The first 2 were TikTok. Again, where are young people going today? It's TikTok. And where, our industry, a lot of players in our industry said, we can't be on TikTok. You got to be on TikTok. if you're gonna talk to that. And look at the platform you can get on TikTok with if you're creative. And then you know, Brandy always did a phenomenal job, and the platform she was able to provide for us in that little clip was amazing for industry. So we need people, influencers out there taking a stance and taking the opportunities to really putting our best foot forward. So transparency and trust, it's significant. 55% of consumers believe it's important for grocery stores and meat, poultry brands to provide information on how and where the livestock was raised and processed. And we're seeing more and more companies who are putting a third-party verification mark on their product, and they're putting a QR code. I did research on QR codes about 20 years ago, and no one used them. We put them on and they had no interest. They didn't have any interest at all. Today, people are using QR codes. So I would highly recommend you think about a QR code that's going to take them somewhere that they're going to really enjoy. New technologies. I want to give you a little sneak piece of some research we did recently on new technologies, starting with cell-based meat. The reaction was positive as long as consumers had some inclination of what it really was. And so when we served up a statement on cell-based or cultured product to consumers and said, would you try this? For those who are familiar or fairly confident they knew what cell-based was, even before they read the statement, 45% said that they had a positive attitude for it and would probably try it. For those who had not heard of it before and really had no clue, only 9% had a positive attitude. What this says to me is, even with our new technologies, and that's what you all are about, new technologies, with our new technologies, we need to start serving them up, putting them out there, giving information that our consumers can understand and can relate to about what's coming down the pipe and how it's going to have an impact on their lives for the better. Gene edited meat. This was a brand new one. We threw it in there. And again, we put a statement together about what gene edited meat. For both cell-based and gene, we said these products are not available. But conceptually, this is what they do. This is what they will be. We had 24%, about a quarter said, yeah, they definitely or probably would try them based on that statement. And 46% said, nah, it sounds like frankenmeat to me. I mean, literally, we had people say it sounds like frankenmeat. But they're skeptical. They're very skeptical. The folks who are most likely to say, yeah, bring it on. Guess who? Protein progressives, millennials, Gen Zs, a lot of the ethnic populations, Asians, families with kids, urbanites. It's kind of an interesting cross section, but and males. Males were more likely than females. Kind of interesting. So again, as we think about these new technologies, there's opportunity there. We just need to start educating and know where to educate and who to educate and how to educate. One of the things we thought was fascinating is, can we bring on new technologies when we're still struggling with GMOs? We asked consumers about, do you think that GMO products are safe to be fed to animals? And then how would you feel if you learned that most meat you currently consume was fed products that contain GMOs? And in fact, a third on each side said, not really interested. So we even have work to do on their understanding of what GMOs actually are and what they do. All right. So I talked about the 4 different platforms I wanted to talk about and forging trust. Consumers' concerns are many. We've talked about some. A quarter say that they're concerned about animal welfare in general, and this is not just meat. This is not just meat consumers, but this is all consumers. So the numbers go down when we're talking about all consumers. When we do most of our research, it's focused specifically on the meat consumer because we want to know who they are and what they're doing. This is general. So a quarter say animal welfare, 23% say the environmental reasons, 32% are worried about antibiotics, hormones, and chemicals, and 20% are concerned about recalls and food safety. They have a lot on their mind, as we've talked about, a lot on their mind, a lot of clutter we need to work our way through. How do we earn their trust? Well, 88% trust farmers. That's the story right there. 88% trust farmers. And when you're talking about local anything, that's even better. Now, consumers' definition of local is varied, but when we have a storyline of farmers and ranchers out there and what we do and how we're stewards of the land and stewards of the animals, and we have a passion for what we do. I mean, there's some incredible, I mean, all of you who are in this industry are in this industry because you love this industry. That's why I'm in this industry. Tell that story. Consumers will relate to that. They see it as something that they value and they can relate to that. Trust has really become a make or break difference. How do we gain trust? Be proactive. Our industry has been reactive way too long. We sat back until activists got really aggressive and forced our hand in so many ways. They forced us to come out of the closet and be more transparent and really pull back that cloak. I tell you what, if we're not being transparent, transparency doesn't feel good to us, we're doing something wrong. We got to change something. If we're afraid to talk about what we do every day of our lives, the work we put into caring for our animals, producing the product, thinking of new technologies, trying to be more efficient, everything we're doing for the environment, if we're afraid to talk about that to the consumers, to serve it up, something's not right. We got to rethink what we're doing. And we need to talk directly to consumers. There are so many platforms out there today that consumers are looking for. They're more, like I said, they're so socially connected. Everybody is online. I mean, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Snapchat, WhatsApp. I can't even keep track. And I'm a boomer. Think about the younger generations and how they live in those sites. We got to get to those sites where they're consuming information and make sure we have the right messages, telling our story, making a difference. And I'll also challenge you all that no matter what role you play in this industry, we're all shooting for the same thing. And that is the customer at the end of the channel. We all, no matter what we do along the route of us assisting moving product from farm to fork, we have a purpose, we have a responsibility to add value based on what we're hearing the consumer's looking for. If we're not constantly looking and listening and trying to understand better what consumers are looking for, we're not gonna make it. There's a lot of money and a lot of very smart people creating products that are competitive to us, and they aren't animal protein products for the most part. Some of those products. We need to consider what the competition truly is, and we need to consider what the end game is, and we need to always, no matter what it is we're doing, be ready to pivot, change, create opportunities in adding value and delivering on the needs of the consumers. Thank you very much.